love riding my bike. I love running. I don't care what they think about it. I love it.
At that point, when I knew I was going to win, chills just went up and down my entire body.
I don't believe there are any good or bad foods. Food is food.
I still feel so passionate about getting that record that I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
As an athlete, I was like, what's my story, or what's your story? What can you learn from it? And what can you teach people?
Welcome to the IronWomen podcast. I'm Alyssa Godesky. I am here with Haley Chura. And Haley, I saw a flurry of activity from you on Instagram this last week. And I think you're actually doing it for, well, first things first, I think you're actually doing the algorithm right, because when you are quiet for a little bit and then you come back, that's all I see. It like pops up into my feed first. So I think there is like a definite strategy to doing that flurry of activity. Second, one of the updates I saw from you.
Wait, was the flurry activity my reels?
Yes.
Or was it something else?
Well, it was the reels, but then it was also, I saw your story update that we were all of your IronWomen podcast listener fans have been eagerly waiting this update, that you were offered a PTO T100 slot to T100 San Francisco and you turned it down. So I feel like we have a lot here to unpack this week.
I know. Okay. So first of all, the reels. When I started May, I thought, hey, this is going to be a fun activity. There are 31 days in May, and there are 31 songs in Taylor Swift's new The Tortured Poet Department album. And I was like, I'm going to make a reel for every day. And initially I thought I would just put it in my story. And then I was like, I want to keep these. And I think I made it 6 days.
That's very good. All right.
And then I started to have a bit of an unravel, which also leads to number 2. When your second comment, and I just like, I could not quite keep it up. And so it was like a little bit of a side of my life status, I think, and it started to unravel, and now it's been quiet. So I apologize for spamming your feed for a few days and then not sticking with it. I mean, what do they say? How many days does it take to make a habit? I didn't get there.
I still think it's a good strategy to be quiet and then put a bunch in, because like I said, you're still on top of like what gets fed to me. It's not like it's just burying you in the bottom of everything when you come back. And I fully support you not finishing this challenge, self-made challenge that you gave yourself, because reels are really hard. And I will say anyone that can do that kind of real like content has just an innate ability to do it, or just like
mine were pretty low. I think some of mine were pretty low quality.
Sometimes even if you just put like the video, like a video in there it's still really hard to like think about what to do and put it together. And then you like, everything starts moving around when you go to edit it and it's not quite right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you save it as a draft. And then it's like, I don't know, something always gets turned around and
all space and like,
yes.
Yeah.
So
it is hard. I know. Yeah. I hire the people who do social media really well, because I've tried several things over the years, and it is very hard. And then, as we move into the second part, so I think if anyone listened to our show last week, I think I had some comments on that where people say like, it really sounds like if you would have gotten a slot to San Francisco, you'd taken it. And so it was, yes, I think last Monday, if I had gotten a slot to San Francisco, I probably would have taken it. But I didn't get the slot on Monday. So
Tuesday happened.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like some things happened, and the thought process behind this, like I can say, I can't remember even which day I got offered the slot, but I feel like sometimes when there's like a little bit of adversity, I actually like perform really well. If there's like a little bit of an irritant, and then, I ask a lot of myself, like things go really, really well for me. And so I like the problem solving. I think right now I have too much adversity, and it was just like things like my pool closed. And so that's been really hard. And I know that it's probably easy for some people to think like, oh, just go somewhere else where there's a pool. But I mean, I'm almost 39 years old. This is not like, I don't just up and leave these days. Like I don't actually do very, very well at training camps. And so there's just more involved in that. And then 2, I had talked to my coach and Matthew Rose, and like we kind of talked about this bike course in Alcatraz, and we don't know it specifically, but it is known as being a very technical course, and I am not a technical bike handler. I just don't have those skills. I ride a lot indoors, and he was nervous for me from that perspective of like, can I be competitive on this course? Given what we know about the area, about San Francisco, and about like how it could be, is this a good bike for me? So, it is going back to the pool, like it's a hard swim. And there are other years where I would have really, really loved swimming in San Francisco Bay and the challenge of that. But when the longest swim I've done recently is like 1,600 yards in a 20-yard 2-lane gym pool. Things are going to get a little bit better here in Bozeman. I think our outdoor is going to open the fire pool, but it's not the same. My training is not the same. So do I want to put myself in that? And then third was just like some other commitments I had made around the time and trying to work those in. And it just became too much. It became too much. And what's wild is I had a very hard time with it a little online. And when they said like they wanted to see me race, and in all honesty, like that Instagram post from the PTO came out after I had said no. And I was like, oh, I made a mistake. Like I made a mistake because like people were just so nice about wanting to watch me race. And that was like so kind and believing that I belonged there. And when I didn't, and like, I'm like so thankful for them. And I think that they are right. They don't know everything that's going on. And so that was the biggest thing when I think the PTO announced the other wild cards on Saturday, and one of my athletes texted, and I didn't want anyone to think it was a conspiracy, that anything nefarious was going on by the PTO, because they did offer me a slot and was ranked fifth in the season. From all outside accounts, I think it made 100% sense that I would do that race. It's the closest one to my home, only one with a direct flight, hard swim. I have a swim background. I had already said I wasn't doing Hamburg the weekend before. And so I understand why they would be upset, or not upset, but just curious about why I wasn't doing it. I'm physically healthy. And so it does seem crazy. And for, a little while I felt very crazy. And I did want to make sure I put something out that I was like, this is not the PTO. Like the PTO has been on the up and up the whole thing. And I actually felt so good when I saw the 4 wildcard women, Kaidi Kavioha, who has raced really well in the last 2 events. And then Jocelyn McCauley and Jeannie Metzler and Grace Tech. And I think at least those last 3, if we look at prior to Miami, they were all ranked ahead of me. And I think all 3 of them said no to Miami for whatever reasons, which gave me an opportunity to race in Miami, which has given me these 2 of the best races of my career, in Miami and Singapore. And so I do think that made me feel good. I'm like, these women deserve a chance to race. It's going to be great. And so I don't think it's necessarily this, I don't know how to say it exactly, closed system where someone's going to get an opportunity and someone isn't. I think that there are other opportunities. And I think, again, I understand how this series works, and that to get 3 wildcard opportunities is that's a wealth of opportunities and potentially leading to bigger things down the road. And by saying no to that, I am possibly giving up on things down the road, but that's okay. I do think it's okay. And one of the things that kind of really drove, again, since I've done this, I've probably been reaching out into the universe being tell me I didn't make a mistake, and
you didn't make a mistake.
Grasping onto everything. Yeah. And so a few of the things I think that have really helped me. One, I don't know if you've ever listened to the podcast Wiser Than Me with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Oh, it's
no,
so,
I haven't.
This is my favorite show. IronWomen, of course, is my favorite show. This might be a close second. She interviews women who are all over 70 years old.
Ooh,
and a lot of them are they're famous. They're all famous, but I think I was running the other day and I listened to back to back her chat with like Ina Garten and Billie Jean King. And, Billie Jean King, of course, that's like right up our alley, sports. And just these women are so smart. They've gone through life, and I think their trajectory is different than I expect when I actually hear about it. And she does ask about like lessons they've learned. And a lot of them say like saying no sometimes is something they've learned as they've gotten older, is that you can't do everything, and saying no. And Billie Jean King, talks about like missing out on things, but then how greater things have come. And so I would definitely listen. I mean, again, you can get it's much more eloquent when you hear Julia Louis-Dreyfus go through it, but I also learned a lot about interviews and interviewing. And so that's always good. But anyway, so I think that has been something that helped. And then honestly, last night, the triathlon-ish subscriber newsletter that Kelly O'Mara puts out came out, and it was a Q&A with Kate Fagan, who is the author of What Made Maddie Run. And she also wrote an ESPN article. And I was reading that, and I have not read the book. I haven't read the book. And I know that I have read the article, and I know the premise of the article. And, if anyone isn't a subscriber, you should subscribe to Triathlon-ish, because you get, these great Q&As on Sunday nights. But there was a question I think that Kelly asked about what coaches can do better to support athletes. And Kate answered it like, coaches actually should encourage people to take breaks sometimes, or allow athletes to quit, even when it doesn't necessarily make sense. And that was something that I was like, oh my goodness, like I am so lucky to have Matthew. I have for 15 years. I've been very lucky. But again, like from all outside accounts, like taking a break right now does not make sense. I'm racing very well, and this race looked like a no-brainer, and it's the middle of the season and it does not make sense. And we know I'm almost 39, like opportunities are not coming my way. And yet I made this decision, but he supported me in this. And I think he is a coach that my whole career has seen very big picture. We have learned from the past and really don't make any of the same mistakes twice. And he will challenge me on things, asking me about things and like really challenging me to think bigger picture, which I don't always do, and think about, myself 10 years down the road and how I will feel about this, even though it's hard in the moment. And I'm so thankful, because I think that not that he like allowed me, but even his just confidence in me in this break, and that it's not the end. I'm not retiring, I'm not quitting, but I need a break. And I think that was the kindest thing he could have done for me as a coach, is support me in this. And I do think ultimately it is going to be the better path for me. And I'm just so, so thankful. I'm so thankful, because in that Q&A, Kate, talks about why coaches don't do that. And it's not anything against coaches who encourage athletes to keep going. They're doing the best they can in that moment. But sometimes, there's just a different reason. And sometimes you don't have hindsight always, but you have to be thinking about this like bigger picture. So anyway, I didn't mean to get so deep on everything. I'm okay. Yeah. Just, I think honestly, like the best metaphor I have for it right now, I don't even know if I'm using the word metaphor correctly, is that like, again, I said I was only swimming 1,600 yards, which is like kind of, for a professional triathlete, a laughable amount to go to the pool and only swim 1,600 yards. But because of the conditions I was swimming in, I look at that workout and I'm like, oh my goodness, why is he only writing 1,600 for me? I could do more. Like, I'm fine. Even though the pool is short, hot, 2 lanes, waves, everyone else is doing breaststroke, well, I could do more. And like, every time I have gotten to about 1,500 and I start getting really nauseous. Yeah. And this is something we know about me from my past, like too many flip turns, too warm of temperature, like all that, like too many waves, like I really can't handle it. And like every time I think I can handle more, and Matthew's job is actually to get me out of there before I get sick, before I start, like I ruin the rest of my day. And I am spending hours like vomiting, and he does it. And I think that that's kind of also what we did here. Like I'm healthy, I'm fine, I'm going to be okay. And because we're taking a break, I think I am going to be okay. So there's your,
No, I mean, you and
more
I over the
information than you
years have had so many conversations about like just what it takes to race this stuff, right? And it's like, even with the T100 races, you had 2 giant races this year that, like, while, yeah, they might not have been Ironman distance, it's like the level of competition and the level of racing was like so, so high, you know? And so I mean, I think it's great that you're recognizing that like you need kind of to take a break at this point, right? To like get like the mental side of things on par with how you're feeling physically, because I mean we see it more and more, which is great from top athletes all the time. I think, was it this past week, was it 2 weeks ago, like even Miss Teen USA, Miss USA both like stepped down, right? It's like sometimes it's just too much. Like whatever we're doing is just too much, and like the world will keep going, right? It is like, you know, the world will keep going. And I think that you started this season by telling me, I think on the recording, that you were going to make it like your North Star season, right? And like follow that. And I think like, screw it. If your North Star is telling you to like not be racing, then like don't be racing, right? Like no one ever knows the full story except for you and your head and your heart and all of that. So like you have to go with that. And I think we are seeing more athletes do that now, but I think having you talk about that is like so, so helpful. And like, yeah, you're 39, but I know I've been inspired by my last handful of interviews I've done. Some still are coming out, because like these women, like you're going to be racing very strong for years to come if you want to be, you know, like that's not a concern. So what is the concern is like you being happy and healthy, you know? And so I think amateurs especially can like probably, I think, yeah, there's a lot of pressure as a pro, but like, you know, I think having you set this example is really, really helpful, because I think that all too often we see when people are too afraid to just like take a step back for a month, right? Or 2, or whatever it's going to be, you know? And I think it's very admirable.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, I have a plan B, plan C, plan D. You know, I have races I like are in the back of my head. I feel like I'm not going to say them on here, because every time I say stuff like
yeah, don't tell us. Keep it in suspense. I like the suspense more, and so our listeners then have to sit in suspense too, because I'm not going to like hammer you to tell us any options.
Okay.
So keep that to yourself, but yeah, I think
I'm going to have. Oh, sorry. I just gonna say, I think I'm also gonna have a really fantastic summer. And so that's something where like where I live, like the weather, it was truly like I think it was like Saturday morning, I like went on, I posted that stuff, and then the weather got fantastic. I had a friend, I like, again, Matthew is, I don't know if he's just like a genius or whatever, but like I rarely have like an aerobic ride on Saturday. And I did. I had just like an aerobic ride. I had a friend who texted, was like, hey, do you want to go do this? Do you want to go ride? And I was like, okay, I think things are already like turning up, you know, it's just like things, again, I'm grasping at the universe to tell me I did the right thing, but maybe I just should have, all I needed to do was come on here and talk to you, because Alyssa says it's the right thing. But yeah, this is, you know, the North Star approach doesn't mean more racing all the time. Maybe that's like reversing on it, but yeah. And I do think, I look back at my career, I'm like, the reason I've been able to do this for 11 years is because sometimes we make hard decisions, and it's and I think that has been a big part of my longevity as a professional in this sport.
And I will say one other tidbit I will give to you. I'm taking a mental skills coach, or a class that's taught by the woman, her name's Shannon and her last name is escaping me, but she works on mental skills for like the NAU elite runners and Flagstaff, and like she's involved with a lot of the elite athletes in that area. And so I liked one of the tidbits I've taken from this class is that like the both and mentality, right? Is like, yeah, you can also be like, have FOMO and be wondering if you're doing the right thing, but also like be perfectly content knowing that you are like taking time for yourself, you are doing the right thing. Like you can have all of those contradicting feelings at once, right? And it's like, that's totally normal. And like, it might last for a week, it might last for 2 weeks, right? But like, it'll get back to kind of like your equilibrium at some point. But I think you can have all of those feelings and like be wondering, right? And like you said, the most important thing is you're healthy, right? And so you can't take that for granted, and just these things shall pass.
Yes. No, thank you. I really appreciate it. And what's new with you? Anything happening?
I mean, in
Do you
the
want to
complete
go? Will
opposite
you go
realm
on
of life.
on my, can I give you my Instagram password and you could just go on and like let me know what it looks like? Because I actually haven't I think I like logged in for 1 second and it was like too many comments, which again, I know that 90% of them are super
It's like
positive.
nice, right? But
Yeah.
it's a lot. I mean, it is. I will say there's like almost every day I'm like, how did I ever do Instagram and also train? Because like right now my training volume is like, if I feel like it, a 30-minute sitting ski erg workout, right? And like this past weekend we had family in town to celebrate Matt and I getting married, and so it was like it was just a busy weekend, but it was not so. I mean, I had literally my first obligation of each day was noon, and I still was like, I feel too busy to do a 30-minute ski erg workout, right? So like, and it's because like when I've loaded my plate more with like more work, and that involves like social media stuff, right? And it's like that stuff takes time, and just like working through that and building all of that. So I do not fault you at all for not leaning into that right now. There's a time and a place for that. There's a reason why it's a full-time job for people.
It's so true. I've never wished I had a media. And again, this isn't even, I have to remind myself, like, again, mostly positive. It's a very small niche of even the endurance sports world, the triathlon world. And it is, I don't know, I told myself, I was like, I'm going to go have a beer, sit and do this. And then I just end up just sitting and having the beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna pass and no one is gonna remember any of all this. And that's fine. That's totally fine. And and it's all gonna be just great. But I'm glad you got to celebrate your wedding, and I'm glad you're even doing a 30-minute skier. I will say, as one who, again, a long time ago was injured, and has done all my best performances since then. Your body is working very hard to recover, especially building that bone. And so you have to like give yourself a little credit for that. Like, you're doing a lot of work, even if it's not necessarily like something you can log in Training Peaks.
Yeah. I went to PT today, and I was like, my entire PT session was sitting on the edge of the table and like working on letting my leg like relax and hang, basically. And like we would move the little cushion, kind of propping it up like more and more to like lower it down and down, and like let gravity just let it hang. And it was a 45-minute like, appointment, and I left there and I was like, I need to go nap for like 2 hours, because it's like, and actually one thing I really like about this PT is that and it's teaching me a lot about like mind body connection for myself, which like I've never, with something like this where I feel like it should be very simple, right? Like, of course I just need to bend the leg, I don't think as much about like the anxiety and like fear I have around bending the leg, and she like makes me, every time I get in there, I like give her my pain scales. I give her my like fear and excitement scale of like 1 to 10. Right. And so like through the session, she keeps checking in on that to make sure we're like making progress appropriately across all of them. And it's like, while I'm only literally trying to let gravity do the work this entire session, being in tune to be understanding that actually my brain is working full time. And like, that means like my whole body is then kind of like, involved in whatever we're trying to get the leg to do. It is exhausting. Right. And I do have to give myself a little credit for that. But it's just funny. And like, now I have my plan of like how to let gravity assist me bend the leg over the next 3 weeks, because I am 3 weeks. I'm halfway through the terrible time, halfway through my 6 weeks, of non-weight bearing, which is an exciting little milestone, because I do feel like the number 21 is like, I feel like that's a good, strong number to be counting down from, right? It feels like pretty doable and attainable. And so it's going to be okay. We're just going to keep on plugging along. But I'm fully on board right now to be, if I don't feel like doing something, I'm like, this is the time, because, like once I'm raring to go, I'm I don't know, like rest as much as I can now, right? Because I'm not supposed
Yes.
to be doing too much.
Yes. No, like I said, I mean, your body is building a bone. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot. Even yeah, a PT is the most humbling experience. You are. It's like, wait, why is this tiny movement so
I
hard? I
know.
mean, and a good PT is everything. So I'm glad it sounds like you have a good PT, a good person leading you, and time moves fast. And I mean, yeah, take care of that body because hopefully we are. Before we know it, we'll all be back on race courses and having a great time.
And Haley, we have no mailbag this weekend or this week. So people can keep sending questions to ironwomenpodcast@gmail.com if you want us to answer some mailbag questions. And
We
this past
are
weekend,
planning a special beginner
oh,
Q&A. So for
yes.
beginner triathletes all across all of Feisty Media, there's been a lot of questions about just if anyone is new to the sport, if they have questions, or I mean, again, even if you're in the sport and you're worried about, oh, I've been in this too long, I can't now I have to ask, like, what is a chamois? Like, like that kind of thing. These things seem silly, but they're not intuitive. And Alyssa and I've been in the sport for a long time. So if you have those kind of questions, send them in. You can send our mailbag, podcast@gmail.com. Or I think there have been calls for questions across all of Feisty. And we are actually planning a show.
Yeah,
a
a
show,
show.
right?
Yeah.
Just you and I chatting about answers, specifically about in a couple weeks. So send those questions in.
And this last weekend was a very special holiday for the mothers in the world. Happy Mother's Day to all of you out there. And we are just continuing the celebrations this week with two very special guests who are some really amazing peers of ours, athletes, right, that we compete against and have competed against and are also mothers.
Yeah, more coincidence than planning, but sometimes that's just how it works out. But recently talked with Lara Gruden and Kayla Pokorny, two women who are both professional triathletes and moms. And while both women have given birth within the past couple of months, their postpartum plans are actually really different. So longtime listeners should remember Lara Gruden being a podcast guest a few years ago. She told us about her start in the sport. She started on the short course draft legal circuit and then made a subsequent move to longer non-drafting races. So Lara updated me on some of her more recent racing, including several top 10 finishes in 2022. She became a mom in 2023 and recently made the decision to step away from professional racing. Kayla Pokorny is a newer professional triathlete with a very different story. She started her professional career in early 2023, and after landing her first top 10 pro finish at St. Anthony's Triathlon a year ago, she found out she was pregnant with her second child. So Kayla told me about training through this pregnancy and her return to the pro set just a few weeks ago at St. Anthony's, and that was just 3 months postpartum. So I am grateful to both Laura and Kayla for sharing their stories with me, and I love how they show there are different paths for moms in our sport, even at the most elite level. I'll have that full conversation with Lara Gruden and Kayla Pokorny right after the break. Welcome to the IronWomen podcast, Lara and Kayla. I'm so excited to chat with both of you today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much. Good to be here.
Yeah, Laura, you're a returning guest. You were on the show a few years ago, but for the sake of our audience and myself, could we start by giving a little refresher on who you are, where you are in the world right now? And I'd love to just hear how you first got started in triathlon.
Okay, so I used to be a professional triathlete. I did triathlon, I would say probably about 6 years. And now I recently had a baby about 9 months ago. And I'm kind of getting back into training and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't know if I'm going to get back into triathlon. I have some goals that have started coming up. And so maybe, we'll see what happens. I got into triathlon because somebody challenged me to do one of these races, and I was super stubborn and I said, no, I'm not going to do one. And he's like, come on, just try it. You're going to love it. And I jumped in and I got hooked after that.
That's what happens sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
Kayla, this is your first time on the show, and so of course we want to get to know you a little better. So can you answer the same questions? Who you are, where in the world you are right now, and how did you first get started in the sport?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. I am a professional triathlete. This is technically my second year as a pro, but last year I only got 2 races in before I got pregnant. So I kind of took the rest of the season off, obviously. I just had baby at the end of January, so he's 3 months old now. I do actually have a daughter as well. She's 4.5. So yeah, it's definitely a big change with 2 kids now. But I just did my first race back as a pro, St. Anthony's Triathlon last weekend. And yeah, so just kind of trying to get back into the training. It's definitely a lot more difficult, obviously, training for triathlon, let alone training in the pro field with a baby. But I'm kind of, making it work. Your other question, where I'm in Florida, South Florida, so it's starting to get really hot right now. I just ran outside and I'm still sweating like an hour later. It is insane. And how I got into triathlon, I was a swimmer all through high school, kind of got burnt out, never swam in college. I didn't even enter a pool for 10, 12 years. And then back in 2015, I just kind of started running again. I thought, hey, triathlon sounds fun. Signed up for a local race. And like Laura said, I just got hooked.
I'm a little bit jealous of your weather. I can't believe I'm saying this, and I'm jealous of South Florida weather, but I'm like looking out the window at snow right now, and I'm in Montana, and I'm like, wait, it's May. I'm like, I was gonna ride outside today, but obviously not happening. So anyway, a big reason for this conversation, obviously, from your introductions, is to talk about motherhood in the context of professional triathlon. And since both of you recently gave birth and have very different stories that I think can highlight the different paths for moms in our sport. But before we go there, I'd actually love to hear more about, your professional careers. And so, Kayla, can we start with you? I mean, you were already a mom when you first started to race pro, and like, what was that decision process like for you?
Yeah, so I got my pro license in, let's see, it was the beginning of 2023. I'd been racing, pretty competitive age group, for I'd say like 3 years. I was kind of, like the top level, and I kind of waited to take my pro card, for a good year, after I could have gotten it. I just kind of waited. I just wanted to kind of get more experience. And then I think my daughter was, I think 2 at she must have, yeah, 2.5 at the time, I guess. When I kind of first decided to do that. And, I figured I was getting older. I wasn't really sure if we wanted to have more kids, but I figured if I didn't do it, if I didn't try this whole pro thing out, like it was never going to happen. It was either now or never. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. But, whether I'm successful or not, who knows? But I just, I figured what the hell, why not? So yeah, I just kind of jumped right in. Had no idea what I was doing. The first pro race I rolled up, no clue what I was doing. Still don't know what I'm doing, honestly, but just learning as I go. So
I think I'm like 11 years in and I still don't know. So, I mean, you're in good company. Laura, I think, the start of your professional career was a little bit different. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I did an EDR race. It's an elite developmental race, and basically everyone in the race is trying to qualify for their pro card. And I qualified for my pro card in California there. And it was a draft legal race, so I kind of went the ITU route at first. And I did, and unfortunately, it was kind of when COVID started hitting, so I was only able to do ITU for about a year. And then, there was restrictions with travel and all that kind of stuff. And most of the ITU races are abroad. So Sam was like, why don't you try 70.3? And I was like, oh my God, hell no. Like, that is such a long distance. I only run 6 miles. And he's like, come on, just, that's your only option right now. So I jumped into that and, started training longer and harder, and I still don't even know how you guys do the full Ironman. But
Neither do I.
yeah. But no, I really did have a lot of fun, and I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about myself, and I had mixed feelings retiring as a triathlete and just focusing on being a mom. But to be honest, like when I was in the races and Sam would be like dominating, I'm like, I'd rather be cheering him on and like helping him than being, mid pack or in the back. I was like, let's just go and help Sam become number one in the world. And yesterday we accomplished that, which is
Yeah, and that's
amazing.
Sam Long, your partner, and as you mentioned, number one in the world, ranked professional male triathlete.
Yeah.
So like you have alluded to like your story and where we are now, but I want to ask about, the pregnancy journey because yours was very public.
Yeah.
I believe, you raced Indian Wells 70.3 in late 2022. I hopefully have that timeline right. And
Yeah.
then that was followed by a very public announcement that really, and social media that really chronicled your entire pregnancy and postpartum. So looking back now, how do you feel about that whole experience?
Yeah, so I found out that I was pregnant like 3 days before the race. And I remember like the lead up, I was feeling super strong and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a great race. I feel like I'm going to have a breakthrough. And then I like started having these weird cravings and my boobs started getting big. And I was like, okay, I don't think this is part of like training hard. And so I took a pregnancy test and I was like, shit. So found out I was pregnant, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this race because how cool is it that like me, Sam, and baby Leo in my belly are all in the same race at the same time? Like, what an awesome experience. So did the race. And then after that, I don't know, I went back and forth between maybe doing like one more race, but I just, your body, I mean, everyone's different, but like I would be tired and then, I'd feel good. And it was just such a roller coaster that I was like, I'm just going to enjoy my pregnancy. I'll train when I want to train and, we'll kind of see what happens. I think one thing that I really struggled with though, is that I was like, okay, I'm going to have the baby and then I'm going to get back into it and I'm going to feel good. And I'm going to, it's going to be so easy. And for me, like that wasn't the case. We didn't really have a lot of help and I'm doing a lot on my own. And so it just really wasn't realistic for me. But yeah, I don't know. Does that answer it?
Yeah. Well, and I am curious just about like telling the whole world about that. Like, are you
Oh,
glad that
yeah.
you have those memories kind of in a place where you can easily access them? Or did it open you up to the peanut gallery?
No, actually, you know what? It was really awesome sharing with the world because I had so many people reach out and be like, hey, if you need any advice or any help or, Sam is like huge in the public figure. I mean, he's got his YouTube and he's got his Instagram and all this kind of stuff. And so I kind of didn't really have a choice. But like it actually was very beneficial because like I said, I mean, I had people reaching out. I was able to like talk to Chelsea Sodaro and like a couple other pros that were pregnant. Hey, like, what did you guys do during it? And I remember one of the biggest advice that Chelsea gave me, she was like, don't push yourself while you're pregnant because like she, still has some things that happen to her body when she's racing and she's like, it's just not worth it. Like some women, they're still peeing their pants or they're, they're struggling getting back. And I remember one other girl too, she told me the more you rest during your pregnancy, like the faster the comeback. And I truly feel that. I mean, right now I'm not even really training and I'm like running, with Sam on his brick runs and I'm swimming and I'm like, maybe I need to get back into this. Yeah.
I mean, you've used the word retirement, but I actually have only written in here like pause. And so
Yeah, pause.
we will, again, I think everyone's allowed to like, change their mind, all that kind of stuff. No pressure, but
Yeah.
but Kayla, let's talk about like your experience because you mentioned your pro debut. It was Clash Miami, early 2023, and then followed by you had a great race and a top 10 finish, a paycheck at St. Anthony's Triathlon, April 2023. Incredible result in only your second pro race. And then you announced your pregnancy. And so obviously for you, it was a little different. You'd been here before. This was your second child. And how were things different life-wise this time around?
Well, life-wise, you know, obviously raising a four, she was, well, no, she wasn't even 4 at the time. She was 3.5. So kind of, trying to chase around her while being pregnant. And like Laura said, like the feeling so up and down, especially the first few months. It's like one day you're just absolutely exhausted. The next, like, you feel great. And it's just, you never know. Every morning I'd wake up and I'd be like, am I going to feel good or horrible today? Like there was, that first trimester was just, it's always brutal. So just trying to keep, and then, after I found out I was pregnant, I decided not to race anymore. I knew that I didn't want to, like, whenever I race, I go, we all do. We just go 110% in, all out as hard as you can. And that's how I race. And I knew that I should not be doing that while pregnant. So I just made the decision not to race, and just kind of train when I felt like training. And I stayed very consistent throughout my entire pregnancy. I was running, riding, and swimming right up until actually the day I went into labor. I think I did like a trainer ride and swam that morning. And then like 6 hours later, I was at the hospital in labor. So I stayed very consistent, the whole time, which definitely helped, after I gave birth to kind of come back, made the comeback a little bit easier. But yeah, like Laura said, like I mean, you kind of don't want to push yourself so much to the point where your body just can't come back from that. I remember that I started running. I think the first run I did was like a week and a half after I gave birth. And like, I like started like peeing myself like halfway through. And I was like, oh my God, like what is happening? Like, so, it's just things that, I mean, maybe that's too much information, but like it's
No, that's like a
There's
thing.
never
goes
too much
through such
information.
crazy things.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I think that that's like something our audience is really gonna, relate to. And I don't think there's no such thing as too much information. But Kayla, like, you weren't a pro triathlete during your first pregnancy, and this time you were. And did that change things? Did you feel like any pressure to be like, oh, I want to get back for my pro career?
I mean, yeah, definitely, for sure. It definitely, I did feel like I wanted to give myself enough time, but at the same time, like I had the St. Anthony's race that I just did a couple weeks ago. Like I had that on the books pretty much since like I got pregnant. I was like, okay, I want to be back by end of April next year. That's I gave myself 3 months. I knew that was kind of a aggressive timeline. But yeah, I definitely did feel the pressure. And it was only for myself. Like nobody around me was pressuring me to get back into it so quick. So it was just on myself. But actually, after the first time I gave birth, I actually came back much quicker. I was also 5 years younger. But after that, I remember I got back to training like I think a week later, and I actually did this little local sprint triathlon 3 weeks after I gave birth the first time, and like won the whole thing, beat all the men, and it was kind of crazy. But I remember at that time I came back a lot easier. But I think obviously I was a lot younger, and I'm 36 now. And it was crazy. When I was at the hospital giving birth, they had it on my chart. I was a geriatric pregnancy. It was like, I'm 36 years old, but I was still considered geriatric at the time, I guess. But so it was definitely a little bit harder to come back this time. But yeah, it's been good. Luckily, my parents live really close. My husband's parents live really close. So we do have a lot of help. I would not be able to train as much as I do, or be able to race as much as I do without that. So we're very lucky.
And Kayla, were you able to, I mean, I've obviously been through this before, but not as a professional athlete. Did you get advice from other athletes, or were you just, in your own bubble, taking your own path?
You know what? I was just in my own little bubble. I was like, I've done this before. I kind of knew what to expect, more or less. It's obviously every pregnancy is different, but yeah, I was like, just get through this pregnancy. I don't like being pregnant. I hate it. So I just kind of, buckled down and wanted to get through it as quick as possible.
Was there anything specific that worked really well for you that, you could share with our listeners?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Sorry, was there anything that worked really well for you during your pregnancy that you would share for our listeners?
Oh gosh. You know what? I swam a lot. Swimming when I was pregnant was like, it is like the best feeling because you're weightless. You got this huge belly, your center of gravity shifts, everything's so uncomfortable, your joints hurt. Like running got kind of hard towards the end, obviously. The trainer got really uncomfortable. Obviously can't get into the TT position on the trainer. So it was, swimming was just swim as much as you can, because like the feeling of weightlessness is just, oh, it felt so good towards the end just to get in the pool and like float around and swim. And yeah, that's definitely the best activity you could do while pregnant for sure.
Laura, how about you? Same kind of question. And just like, was there anything about training particularly that, did swimming feel good for you, or was it different?
No, actually for me as well, swimming was great. I think around 5 months though, I stopped doing flip turns. But swimming was like one of the best things. I actually swam till the day I went into labor as well. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I would give is that like I had all these expectations, especially like while I was pregnant. I was, you see all this stuff on social media and Instagram of these women, and they're doing these like crazy workouts, and they're like 8 months pregnant, and CrossFitters doing, big lifts. And like, you really have to get off of that and like not compare yourself to what other people are doing, because I guarantee you that like most of it is not real. I definitely like had to take a step back, because I remember like 6 months pregnant, I would ask Sam, I'm like, oh my gosh, this girl's doing this, like I can't do that, what's wrong with me? And then he's like, what, you can't compare yourself, you're doing your own journey and they're on their own journey. And that is the biggest piece of advice I can give, because it really can mess with you mentally, because then you get all worried that, oh, I'm not going to come back fast enough, and I'm not going to be able to race, and I'm not going to be able to do this, and it can just put you down a loophole. So just focus on yourself, and all your plans and all your expectations throw out the window, and just listen to your body. I mean, one day, like Kayla said, you feel amazing. The next day you're on the couch. I do feel like though, like if I tried to do a really hard workout, it would definitely put me on the couch for like 2 or 3 days. So I really just try to keep everything kind of, medium, I guess you could say, not go super hard, but, maybe push a little bit here and there. That was super helpful as well.
And we've touched on social media, and like in recent years, there's been so much talk about sponsors, dropping women while they're pregnant. And I sense maybe the tide has turned on that. But I'd love to hear both your experiences about the business part of the sport, if that added pressure or if that actually, things were great. And so let's start with Laura.
Yeah. So I actually reached out to my sponsors, and I just said, I remember with Zoot, I said, hey, like, I'm pregnant. This year I'm not going to be racing anymore. I'm not really sure what the comeback's going to look like. Let me give my spot to another athlete that, is possibly needing the help. Right. And they like were super appreciative of that. I did the same thing with all the sponsors. I was like, here's the deal. I don't know what the plan is. I don't want to have pressure. Some sponsors were like, don't worry about it. We want to support you during the journey. Some were like, thank you. Yeah, let's give it to another athlete that possibly could use the help. And no, for me, it was all very positive.
Do you feel like maybe even being, like you've mentioned, people reaching out and following you on social media, like maybe it even increased your profile and made you more valuable for sponsors, even though you weren't actively racing?
Yeah, actually, it was so crazy. Like ever since I started posting stuff about what I was doing during the pregnancy and exercises, and just the mental side, ours wasn't planned, and so I really had to do a lot of work with my guy that I work with mentally to get in alignment with that and get on board. Like, hey, this is what's happening, and because in the beginning I really struggled. I was like, no, this isn't real. Like, what am I going to do? You kind of start going crazy. And then I shared a lot about, just the mental side of things and getting into alignment and being on board with what's happening. And a lot of people were able to kind of relate to that. And then, like I said, with the training, saying, one post I remember doing that I stopped doing pull-ups. Okay. And I had a couple women say, well, why did you stop doing pull-ups when you're pregnant? And I was like, well, I just felt like a pool in my stomach area. And to be honest, it's not worth being able to do 5 pull-ups and then something happen. Right. And so that was like huge because I think people are like, oh yeah, it's really not worth it if you feel off. If you're running and you feel great, just keep running. But like, I think it was between like 4 and 6 months when I was running, I was feeling like some pulling in my low abdomen area. And then I was able to work with this guy and we discovered that like doing gua sha, which is like scraping the back of my low back, was able to release that area and I was able to just keep running. And so like even sharing small tips like that, people are like, oh, let me try that. And then like it could help them, you just never know. So yeah, definitely a new crowd of followers.
Kayla, what about you? How were your sponsors? I mean, you were so new in your sport, but you did have support from a few companies, I believe. And how did they handle that news?
I had, a local bike shop of mine was kind of sponsoring me. And it was nothing really, like you said, I was very new in the sport. I had my pro card for like literally like 3 months before I was pregnant. So I didn't have a whole lot of sponsors. But yeah, I mean, everybody was super supportive. I'm not big on like Instagram or social media or anything. So, I didn't really have like the same exposure as Laura did during her pregnancy. So I didn't really have to worry about that, to be honest. Which was kind of nice. I try to stay off of social media as much as I can. It's like there's just so much of it going on in the world today. And I just, I find myself as soon as I get on social media, it's like I'm constantly comparing myself to other people and yada yada. So I just, I try to distance myself more or less from it. So I didn't really have to worry about that as much, to be honest, it was really nice. I just kind of spent a lot of time with my family and I have a huge training group of people that I train with just locally. And yeah, just kind of stuck to ourselves for the most part.
Do you think as you return to racing, do you think there's, that mom angle that would, relate to a lot of potential, age group athletes and sponsorship? Is that something you want to pursue, or are you just happy in your bubble?
For now, I'm kind of happy in my bubble. It's pretty, I'm trying to juggle a toddler, a almost 5-year-old and a 3-month-old right now. So, but maybe by next season I'll kind of branch out some more. But for now, I'm just kind of trying to get back into things. I have a few more races on the books for this year, but nothing too crazy. And then next year, hopefully, just kind of keep building from where I'm at now. So.
Yeah. And like when we talk about your delivery was only 3 months ago and you did just do a race and you've alluded a little bit to how things have been, but can you tell us more about that, how the last 3 months have been and what it felt like to be on that start line in St. Anthony's, that goal that you set and then actually having that happen?
So yeah, the last 3 months have been a challenge to say the least. The baby his name's Daniel. So he was waking up basically 3 times a night for the first 2 months. And my husband works, more than he works like 50 hours a week. His job is super stressful. So like, I wasn't going to put it on him to get up in the middle of the night to feed the baby and put him back to bed. So it's basically on me. So I was sleeping no more than 3-hour blocks at a time. I'm still not really sleeping that much, but at least it's a little more than 3 hours. But basically I never slept more than 3 hours. So I could never really recover from any training that I did. I was constantly like in a hole, I felt like. I was breastfeeding as well. So that's, a full-time job as it is. And then trying to train and then take care of a 4-year-old. And, it was a challenge. I did a lot of 5 a.m. swims. I did a lot of 9 p.m. runs. Just because that was the only time I could get. And it was definitely not ideal. So, the build up to the race was, I was just pretty much winging it. I didn't really have a training plan. I didn't really have a coach at the time either, just because I didn't know, I never knew what the day would bring. I couldn't commit myself to a training plan. I just literally woke up and was like, okay, the baby's down for a nap. Let me get on the trainer for 45 minutes. And, 20 minutes later, he'd wake up from the nap and that was it, so it was a challenge. And then to finally get to that race, I was definitely not really physically prepared, but, I was signed up for it. It's like 2 hours away from me. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go see what happens. The fact that I even got to the start line 3 months postpartum was the goal, and I did it. So it was pretty cool. And it was I finished. I definitely didn't do as well as I wanted to. But it was
You finished
awesome.
17th in a very competitive field, a very
Yes.
competitive field. I mean, 17th, I think that is incredible, but I do think, knowing that you are doing this on your own and knowing how, it's hard to stand on those professional start lines. It's very scary. There is a lot of pressure, and you are able to have that grace with yourself, knowing that things haven't been perfect, and then hopefully evaluate your performance in that context. But that is really hard. I mean, like how are you handling the like mental part of that okay? Do you think?
Yeah, I after the race, I was so not happy, and my husband was like, he could tell like I wasn't happy with my performance and stuff, but he kind of talked me down and was like, you know what, you just gave birth 3 months ago, like nobody else in this race just gave birth 3 months ago. I and there's and then as soon as the race ended, I got back with my coach. I got back with my coach, so my baby's sleeping more through the night, so I felt like it was kind of time, and I feel more like secure in my schedule where I can actually have a training plan and stick to it. And it's been going well since. So but yeah, I mean it's definitely not easy, and but you got to start somewhere, I guess.
And was your 5-year-old daughter, has she been able to watch you race?
Oh
And
yeah.
like, she seems old enough to kind of know what's happening. Is
Yeah.
that cool?
It's awesome. It's so awesome. She didn't come to this one. She stayed back with him, and actually that was the first full night's sleep I had gotten in 3 months, was the night before the race. It was amazing. Because the baby and my daughter were with my mom, so it was a nice break. But it was the first night away from them in 3 months.
Wow.
But yeah, so she didn't come to this one, but she's seen me race many times before, and she's my best cheerleader. She carries her little cowbell around, and go mommy. It's really cute.
And Laura, we have alluded to, your decision where you did decide after giving birth to step back from triathlon. And it sounds like you had a bit of a support network in helping make that decision. A mental skills coach. I don't know if that's a correct term, but like, can you talk about that process and how that has been?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I had all these expectations of getting back to racing, but for me, it just like wasn't as easy. Sam was gone pretty much the first month. He actually left like 24 hours after Leo was born for Milwaukee, was gone for 3 days, and then came back for about 2 weeks, and then had to prepare for Finland and Singapore. So he was gone like pretty much the first month. That was really hard. I didn't really know what I was doing. And then like Kayla said, I mean, well, to this day, I actually do all the night shifts. I'm on my own doing that because, in our sport, like you can't be tired and you can't be hungover to train hard. Like a lot of jobs you can go tired to work, but like if you want to do a good workout, you got to be rested. And so that was a huge thing with Sam. Like, I wanted to support him and I wanted to help him achieve this huge goal. And so, I made sure like he was rested and just kind of like took care of everything around the house. Kayla, I have no idea how you were able to get on the trainer when the baby went down for a nap, because I'm like, can I just take a shower?
Yeah.
I'm still breastfeeding. So I think like, that also has its challenges with training. It's like, if I go for like a hard run, I can feel kind of a dip in my milk supply. And so I have to like wait a little bit and then throw him on the boob, or like you're super engorged before you work out. So he's like on my boob, and then I have to go, do my run, and I have to work around Sam's schedule as well. So like, if he's training all day, I either get up super early to go do a workout, or, like Kayla does at night. And that was just so hard for me. And especially for 70.3 distance, like you can't really train like that. I mean, you got to get in a couple hours. And like, for me, I get 1 hour a day, and basically that 1 hour is what workout I get to pick. And so that makes it difficult to come back. Now, like Leo is doing better though. He takes 2 naps a day, and they, are an hour and a half. And I don't know. My baby does not sleep all night. Some days he'll give me like 3 nights in a row and he'll sleep all night. And I'm like, oh my God, is he still alive? Like, what's going on? And then, you'll have a week where they're waking up. And we did do sleep training to kind of like help, because we were rocking him for a half hour just to put him down for a nap, and he'd sleep for like 30 minutes. And I was like, I'm never working out again if I get pregnant again, because I don't know if that makes the baby all excited and then they don't sleep. But now things are better. Definitely like the past month, like I said, he's more on a schedule. I can kind of work around it a little bit better. I feel a little bit more rested. I will stop breastfeeding at 1 year. I just wanted to make it to 1 year and then be done. I don't know, it was just a goal that I had. Now without triathlon, I've had to set different goals. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. I don't know.
How do you feel about your continued involvement in the sport? And you're just in a different role. You're not on the starting line, but you are still very involved. I mean, you were in the coverage for St. George last weekend. Like, how do you feel about that?
No, actually, you know what, Haley? Like, that has been so much fun. I mean, it is just like awesome being on the sidelines, and he really relies on me now, like giving him splits and telling him where people are, and like, because he coaches himself. So we're kind of like a team now. And I don't know, it's just like way more exciting, and he just makes the races fun. And so I'm like running all over, and I've been super lucky because of my parents have come to the races, and so they can kind of hang out with Leo. And I'm like, okay, Leo, I'll see you later. Like, I'm gonna go and cheer at the race. And at St. George, I did bring Leo out on the run because Sam was like, I really want him to come out and watch. And I was like, okay. And then it's just, you can't really run around with the baby. So I kind of had to stay in one spot. But, Sam, he always makes it fun. He's like kissing me on the course. I'm like, what are you doing? But no,
That was impressive. Well, running a 1:10 split, I think that was a great photo though.
Yeah. No, but I'm having so much fun, and like seeing all the pros, and I try and cheer you guys all on and say, hey, like these are the splits and this is how far back someone is. And I don't know, for me, like I'm having a lot of fun with that. So I'm still involved in the triathlon community. I'm just not racing.
Do you think, kind of watching these races and how they unfold and following splits, do you do coaching, or is that anything that interests you? You don't have any interest in that, but you're like learning a lot by watching
Yes.
things and getting splits and probably like seeing how people react because you're right there.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, and especially with the top guys, I kind of know them, and the girls, like being with Sam and like hanging out with all of you guys, I can be like, Haley, Holly's coming 1 minute behind you, like, let's go. And
if I'm in that situation, I'm super psyched.
Yeah.
I would love it if I had a minute on her.
Like even at St. George, Paula was like, thank you for like telling me how far Ellie was back. And, like they're super appreciative, because everyone, all the fans and spectators are giving splits, but like I feel like as pros, you only have certain people that you can actually trust on like the time splits. And so I feel like I've kind of earned that role. And so like, I'll be like, Mark, like, come on, you're the fastest runner out here. You're a minute from 5th and 4th place. I don't know, it's fun, but no, coaching, like, no, that's not for me.
You got time. I will say that those are like very hard skills. Like as someone who has like been on the sidelines for races, like to actually give accurate splits is really hard and very stressful. And like things are happening really fast, and the tracker's like not updating.
I know.
I mean, it's like, it's hard.
You got your cell phone and your watch and like all these different splits. But like, Sam, he just, not pressure, but he's like, he wants to know where he's at, and it's an important thing. So I really like made sure to learn, and yeah, it's been a good time.
I think that you're fulfilling a role. And maybe if anyone is listening, I mean, this is like our secret races. If you're at the same race as Sam Long, if you can get on Lara's good side, you might get some good splits.
Yeah, there you go. I got you, Kayla. I got you.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes, yeah. I know, your special like mom connection. And we have talked about how a lot of our listeners, might not be pros, but they are age groupers and they're moms, and they have these busy lives and they still have athletic goals. And those of us who aren't moms, want to support the moms in this sport and want to make it a way where they can be involved, as athletes, or as the ultimate timekeeper, spectator, race support at the moment. Are there things I've asked a lot of advice, for while you're specifically, in that pregnancy time, postpartum, and you have offered those, but like, what can, people, all of us else like do to support you in this sport? We'll start with Kayla.
Oh gosh, start with me. Let me see. Um, I honestly don't really, I mean, for me, I have such like an awesome support system around me locally, between my family who all live pretty close to me. I have a huge training group of local friends that that are just so supportive. And, I just knowing that they have my back at all times. Like I always have friends texting me like, "Oh, do you need help with, you want me to come watch the baby for an hour so you can go swim today?" It's just having friends like that has just been so important. And I definitely would not be or be able to do this at all if I didn't have my family and my friends, constantly looking out for me and offering help. And, for me, just accepting that help too. That's the hard thing is, when I need it and I'm asking for help, I'm calling my mom, "Hey, can you watch them for an hour so I can go for a run?" It's hard sometimes to reach out for help, and to accept that help, but that's definitely made all the difference for me. So I don't know if I answered
I
your
gotta
question,
move to
but
Florida. I'm moving to Florida, Kayla.
yeah, come join me down here.
Yeah. Hey, can I borrow your mom?
Yeah. My mom, she lives right down the road. She's great. She loves
Oh my
babysitting.
God. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Laura, like same thing with you. Like, what are ways that you think, everyone in the sport could help, support moms in the sport a little bit better?
It's a tough question, but I think one thing for me is that like I didn't realize how hard it is. And I think like I just have such another level of respect for moms and like parents that do this and have their kids because it is so hard, Haley, that I can't even tell you. I mean, Kayla knows and even Sam, he's like, when he has his recovery days, he's kind of home all day and he's like, "How do you do this all day?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so I think like I just when I see moms, I'm just like, "Hey, you are doing an awesome job. I don't know what your situation is, but you're doing great." And so just maybe telling the moms, "Hey, you're doing a great job." Like even if you don't know them, because it's a beautiful thing, don't get me wrong, but like it is really hard. It is really hard, and especially when you have sleep deprivation, like there is no comparison to how that is, because before I had a baby, I was getting 11 hours, 10 hours of sleep, taking naps, watching Netflix. I don't even watch TV anymore. I'm like, we don't even need a TV. Like, it's just crazy because if you're not taking care of the baby, you're taking care of the house and taking care of your family, and it just never stops. It really doesn't. So I do have like a whole nother level of respect for moms. And I remember telling my mom, I'm like, "I don't know how you did this as a single mom. Thank you." So that's probably the biggest. I don't know if we need support, but just recognizing that. Yeah.
No, great feedback. I know how hard planning is, like in general. And Kayla, you mentioned that you have some race plans. Can you share them? Do you want to share them? I mean, where can our listeners maybe possibly see you on a start line in the, somewhat near future?
Yeah, so I am doing Boulder 70.3, June 8th. I'll be there. And then I am also doing Maine 70.3 at the end of July. And then I'm also doing not a triathlon, but a Pikes Peak Marathon up in Colorado
Oh,
in
wow.
September. So I might
And that's
die.
where you run up and
Yes, it
down
is.
Pikes Peak,
Yes.
right?
And I live at sea level in South Florida. So going to 14,000 feet during a marathon might kill me. So we will see. But I'm
Yeah,
looking
no,
forward
that
to
would be
it.
a fun experience to follow. I mean, I know, again, social media, I don't want to pressure you, but I would love to see some a recap of that. Or maybe you can just come back on the show.
Yeah.
And all your free time,
Yeah.
come chat with me. But Laura, how about you? What does the next bit of time look like for you?
So we are going to Alcatraz June 8th, June 9th. Are you going to be there, Haley?
I don't know. I haven't
Okay.
received a wild card, and I am also very much unsure with my life right now.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay.
I don't have any good excuse. I don't have any kids. I
Hey, you
just
know what?
am,
It's hard.
just general life struggles.
Yeah, totally, totally. So yeah, Alcatraz, and then we kind of don't know after that. We are like planning a wedding in December, and so we don't really know what's gonna either London for the T100 or because I guess there's not a lot of Ironman races left in the United States or close by in the summer, and so he's kind of back and forth. But I just know Alcatraz for sure we'll be at, and we might go to Europe for a month in the summer because I have family that lives over there, and so they can kind of be more hands-on with Leo. I will say that my grandma from Italy did come out and helped for a couple months. She doesn't speak English, but she's been awesome with Sam. They like communicate with their hands, and she's 80, so she can't really do too much, but she definitely like plays with the baby and talks to him. But so we might go to Italy for a little bit. But yeah, I don't really know yet. I will tell you though. So when we were in St. George, the world record, okay, for pushing a baby in a stroller, I don't know if you've seen this, Kayla, is 5 minutes and 11 seconds. Okay, this girl just broke it. And I was like, that would be the coolest goal ever. So Sam was like, okay, let's go to the track. Let's run a mile all out, see how fast you can go. And so I don't know, like, I'm just kind of playing around and seeing what comes up. But I was like, ooh, that would be really cool to, try or something like that. So yeah,
I
we'll
love
see what
this.
happens.
I mean, yeah, I need to cover this.
Yeah.
So like that is right up my alley. Keep me posted.
I will.
Feisty Media, Feisty Triathlon. That's definitely something that we need to. I mean, even attempts. I think these are very, very cool.
Try it out.
Yeah, no, because I can't even imagine. Like I haven't done a lot of stroller running in my life, but like when I've tried it, it's very hard. Like it is like
so
I mean,
hard.
not just like the weight, but like the arm carriage and like everything like that. And it's difficult.
Yeah, and Sam actually said, he was like, I think that's what helped push me up those hills in St. George, because I mean, I'm telling you, like pushing a stroller, I don't know if you've done it, Kayla, but like it is hard. Like it's really hard.
Kayla, do you have the double stroller with a 5-year-old in there too?
She probably does.
And she's like, go faster, go faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I still run with my 4-year-old, but my 3-month-old isn't old enough yet.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I do still run with my 4.5, and she is heavy. She's like 45 pounds. She is like plus the weight of the stroller. I mean, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Maybe we need different
strong
categories, like for like how like the weight of the stroller plus kid, and like different categories for this mile. I mean, I feel like we could do that. But
I think Strava needs stroller segments.
Yes.
Like, totally.
Yeah, because it would be very impressive. I'm sure these are impressive and athletic feats, but we are recording this just before Mother's Day, and so thank you both so much for coming on. Happy Mother's Day to both of you, and thank you again, and best of luck in both your paths. Thank you so much for sharing those, and I think our listeners are really going to enjoy this.
Thanks, Haley, and nice meeting you, Kayla.
Yeah, you too, Laura. Thank you so much, Haley, for having us.
Thanks so much to both Laura and Kayla for coming on and chatting with us about their postpartum stories. Much appreciated in the IronWomen fandom. Is that a word? Is that a thing?
Yeah. And we're gonna see both of them, I'm at races in some respect over the next part of the season, and so that's great. Make sure hopefully our listeners are watching for them, giving them cheers. I mean, everyone deserves some cheers, but just knowing a little bit more of their story helps.
Yes. And in the meantime, if you are, again, starting out in the sport or a veteran that just has a question, feel free to send in those questions to ironwomenpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll use it either as a mailbag or put it into our beginner focused upcoming Q&A episode that we're doing. Haley, last question before I let you go. Have you been watching the clips of Paris with the Eras Tour since it's now back in action? It's so good. It's like And how much have you,
Okay, Alyssa,
do you think,
no,
do you think your fans were thinking that you turned down the San Francisco slot so that you could fly to Europe to instead put all of your hard-earned money that you've earned this year so far on your 2 amazing races to a Taylor Swift ticket out there? I mean, that would be such a Haley turn of events. Like, I would support this 100%.
I think you know me too well. But no, okay, I downloaded TikTok. I have never had TikTok.
Yeah.
Just because my friend Megan I was at the gym and she's texting me and she's like, this has changed. This has changed. And I'm like,
You
how are you
gotta
watching
see
it?
it.
And she's like, it's on this TikTok stream. I like downloaded TikTok at the gym and I was like, I need to know what's happening. And then just like watch the whole new Tortured
It's so
Poets
good. It's so
part.
good.
And like, I'm like sobbing. I'm like, it's so beautiful. It's so genius. It's so good. And then I did see the clips because, Travis Kelce was there last night, I think. And like,
I know.
I mean, I don't know,
The mashup,
when she
did
started
you-
like, I haven't seen the mashups. I haven't watched.
Okay, so you need to find.
I
I'll
haven't
see if I can
opened
find
TikTok
it.
since then. I'm trying not to get
there's
addicted.
a mashup with it feels so high school where like it mashes up her and the backup dancers' dances with various things we've seen from Taylor and Travis at the football games, like his victory dances that her background dancers are doing, and then like the things she was doing in the suite to like celebrate his touchdowns are in there, and it's like the mashup, I live for the mashup. So, those, I mean, I'm like ashamed to admit how much time has gone down the drain watching these in the past couple days, but it's
time well
it's like-
spent, not
yes,
down the drain.
that's
time
true.
well spent.
Okay.
I also think that, okay, this is also like, if you're going through like a kind of a hard time, you're like, okay, at this time last year, Travis Kelce hadn't even attended the Eras tour.
I know.
And now there is choreography and a song about him. And I'm like, how does that happen? Like,
I know.
what in the
He's
world?
probably asking himself that exact same question.
Alyssa, like a little over a year ago, I went to the Eras tour and Maddie Healy was there on stage with Boy Genius. And like, they were like in love. And now there's like diss tracks about him.
It's
and
so
it's
crazy.
like, how does that happen? I mean,
It's
so
so
the opposite
crazy.
can happen too, but but yeah, I mean, it just shows like, I mean, who knows where we'll all be in a year from now. But Taylor reminds us that, a lot can happen. But no, I am glad I'm so impressed and so amazed and just like the entertainment is valuable.
So good. So good. All right, Haley. Well, I guess we will. I'll talk to you next week. Have a good week.
Okay, bye. You've been listening to the IronWomen podcast hosted by Haley Chura and Alyssa Godesky.
IronWomen is a production of Feisty Media and is edited by Lydia Russell and produced by Ella Natition.
Head to livefeisty.com to find more podcasts, stories, and fresh perspectives.
Thanks for listening.